Hey y'all, in this video, I'm going to show you how to gut a bear.
Okay, the first thing that you're going to do is free up the colon by cutting around the butt, sometimes referred to as the vent. The reason that we need to do this is because when you pull out the guts, you want the colon to come out freely and not leave a bunch of excrement in there around your meat. If you don't free it up and you try to just rip it out of there, it's going to create problems and it's going to contaminate some of the meat in there. So all we're going to do is cut all the way around the butt as deep as we can, going around the colon, being sure not to cut into the colon, because if we do, then fecal matter is going to come out and get onto our meat. And I'm going to speed up the video here to a point where I'm getting to the end, but you want to go 4 to 5 inches deep on this cut all the way around the colon. Quick tip, have some paper towels handy whenever you're doing this. That way, if any scat starts to come out, you can just wipe it off real quick and keep moving. All right, changing up the camera angle here so that you can see a little bit better down around the edge of the colon. You want it to be fully free all the way around, and I'm about to show you a couple good examples on the bottom and the right side of what a freed up colon looks like. There's the left side freed up, and here is the bottom freed up. Okay, now you're going to make an incision from the bottom of the sternum all the way down to the bottom of the pelvic bone. And all you have to do is take your finger, run it down the sternum until you feel it gets soft, and that's the bottom of the sternum. You're going to cut a straight line all the way down the skin, but only the skin. We're going to do a second cut that goes through the fat and the little fascia underneath there. But this first cut is just a straight line just underneath the skin. All right, changing up the camera angle here so that you can see the cut go all the way down the pelvic bone. You can actually marry this cut up with the circle that you made around the vent. Okay, now you're ready to jump back up to that cut you made underneath the sternum. You're going to start in the exact same spot, only this time you're going to cut through the fat and the fascia, being sure not to go too deep. You don't want to cut any of the intestines underneath this fat and fascia, and you'll see what I'm talking about. Now, once you get down here to the pelvic bone, something that's going to help you out is just to do a little bit of skinning around this pelvic area and open it up. So cut underneath the skin, cut through some of the fat so that you can get to the pelvic bone, because what we're going to end up doing is making 2 cuts on the left and right side of the pelvic bone to really open up the hips, and it's just going to make our lives a lot easier when we're pulling all these guts out. At this point, everything is opened up. That's the pelvic bone right there. I'm going to zoom the camera in here so that you can see these cuts on the left and right side of the pelvic bone. Okay, so at this point, you've freed up the pelvic bone, you've freed up the colon by cutting around the vent, and you've exposed the guts by cutting through the skin, the fat, and the fascia. The next thing that you have to do is cut through the diaphragm so that you can get your hands up in there. That's this piece of meat right here. Take your knife, shove it in there. It's easy to cut through. Do it on the left and the right side, all the way over to the rib cage. Once the diaphragm is completely freed up, you get to move to the fun part. You're going to take your knife, both your hands, and you're going to shove them all the way up underneath the sternum and reach as high as you can. Grab the trachea in one hand and then cut through it with the other hand. Once it's cut, you should be able to just kind of rip it out. If you encounter any resistance, you can cut through the little strands of meat or tendons that are holding it. But for the most part, you should just be able to pull on it. Okay, going to change the camera angle up on you one more time so that you can see well. This right here is the trachea. It's a really hard tube. Once you get to this point, you're just going to grab and pull everything out at the same time, all the way down to the end of the bear. If you encounter resistance, you get to a spot where you're pushing pretty hard and the guts just aren't coming, cut through any of the meat connections that you see in there. Push again, and every time that you encounter resistance that you can't get through with just a push, cut through the meat that's holding it up. Little note here, pushing these guts out is not going to be easy. It's going to require a little bit of strength, but if you're pushing really hard and you're getting to a point where it's not moving like you think it should be, then go back and cut some more out. Especially when you get down here to the high pelvic region, you're going to have to make some cuts along the spine right here. All right, I'm going to move this bear back a bit so that you guys can get a good view of this. What you're going to see is a lot of fat and meat that is attached to the spine and kind of keeping the guts from falling out. So I'm going to push the guts forward, cut through a lot of that meat and fat right now. If this is your first time doing a bear, it is going to be a lot of work, a lot more than a deer. So just prepare yourself for that. Here I'm cutting through that fat, cutting through the meat on the sides, and those guts are just starting to fall out, and that's what you want to see. These little fat attachments right here, you can rip off by hand, or if one of them's caught up, you can use your knife to cut through it. But you get to a good point here now where we're about to go down into the cavity and try to pull out the colon. Once you've made all the cuts along the spine here in the pelvic region and freed up any of this extra fascia on the sides, you're ready to pull the entire gut system out. This is where freeing up the colon becomes really important. You're going to reach down into the colon, grab it, and if you freed it up enough, the whole thing is just going to come out in one pull. And you're going to see right here, whenever I go in here to pull this out, that I did not free it up fully, so I have to go in and make some extra cuts. But reach your hands down deep inside there, grab what you can all the way around the colon and everything else, and try to pull it out. if you run into a situation like I did here, you're going to have to free up the colon a little bit more, but from this end of the colon. So instead of working from the vent side, we're working from the pelvic side, freeing that up. So once again, all the way around, being sure not to cut into the colon, because if you do, fecal matter is going to come out. This is also going to require some strength. But if you have to pull real hard and it's not coming out, you should probably go back in and free it up a little bit more. Yeah, there it goes. Whew. After you pull the colon, make sure you go back in and pull out any fecal matter that may have dropped out whenever you pulled it out. Your final step is to go up into the cavity here and pull out anything that you might have missed. This can include any bloodshot stuff that just fell out or any guts that you might have missed. And after that, just prop it up and try to drain out any of the extra blood that's sitting in there. You don't want that blood to sit in there, especially if you're not going to process the bear immediately. Because I'm filming this in a garage, I'm using a trash bag for this. If you're out in the field, you can just dump this wherever. But try to get that blood out of there so it doesn't sit on your meat. And that's it. That is how you gut a bear. We appreciate y'all tuning in today. If you learned something, like and subscribe to our channels, and we look forward to seeing you next time.